Yo, what is up? And welcome in my Inner Circle Lounge members, my YouTube viewers, my Twitch people. Welcome in. Happy New Year. Welcome to the first video of 2025. And today we are going to be covering my Inferno Spear build and how I run it in OPR and PvP, and a build that I am generally having a lot of fun playing. I know some of you are saying I see a spear and a fire staff. I'm out already, but hear me out. Check out the video, and I really want you guys to look at this and you guys can see what makes this build fun and everything about it. So let's start off with, first off, what's the purpose, what's the vision behind the build? We want to have a mid to close range build that will allow you to be able to engage not only at some range, but also get in and be very effective in clumps with some great survivability. And that is why I chose this medium build this way. We are running a Inferno, which is the centerpiece of this entire thing. So the main key guy here in this whole build that makes it work is the Inferno. With the Inferno, you get the Inferno by going up to Great Cleave and going through the Empyrean Forge. I'll show you right now on the map where that is located. So Great Cleave here, you have the Empyrean Forge, where you will be able to get this off of Commander Marius at the end, final boss drop. Remember, in PvP, 5 kills guaranteed drop of that artifact. You get a 20% mercy every single time you don't get it until you get a drop. So 5 times max and you will get this staff, the Inferno. Also, why I have the map pulled up, since it will be covered, Glacial Tarn, you're also going to want to take note of this location, because we're going to go over a gear piece, a gear set that comes out of here that's only available in Glacial Tarn. Both of these you can only do when it is mutated to get what I'm talking about. So mutated for the Inferno and Empyrean Forge, and then mutated Glacial Tarn for none other than our Frigid Dawn pieces. More on this in just a second. So let's stick with just covering the Inferno, what it is about, and what makes it great. The Inferno is a fire staff that when your strength is the highest, it will scale off of strength and replace that scaling. And it also is going to give you 15% extra damage when you hit an enemy within 15 meters. 15 meters is actually pretty good distance when played inside, and you see actually the distance in which that really is. And you can always test distance real quick, a quick tip, by using the ping system. So if you see here, I am pinging this location. That is 15 meters, my friends. So you can see right here, this is 15 meters. Anything within this range with the Inferno, and you guys are going to get that extra 15% damage whenever you are using your Inferno and your spear or whatever other weapon of choice that you want to use. So the Inferno with the inner power talent, it does not have the same verbiage on it like the finisher, where it says it works on both weapons. With this particular item, it just simply says you get 15% more damage when you hit targets within 15 meters. And I guess they're probably assuming that, like most things, you're going to understand that that's going to happen on both weapons, but that's just not the case. So to clear that up with you guys, so you guys can definitely know, it does work on both weapons when you use the Inferno with any other weapon. So that opens up the realm of, you can use spear, hatchet, hammer, anything that's primary stat is strength, you can pair with the Inferno. Hell, you could even do an Inferno BB with it too as well and take advantage of that 15% closer damage. So that's also a thing you can do with this, which I will be highlighting that build further down the line. But first, let's tackle this. The spear, why did I choose to pair it with it? The spear is arguably one of the best weapons to use in both PvE and PvP. It has so much CC, so much outgoing damage, and it has so much utility from so many things it can do. I am a big fan of the spear in New World, and it is great with this build. Now, I am running the Stop Poking Me. I have it with penetrating backstabs. This is going to give you 27% piercing to armor, and then also penetrating empowered. Of course, we got good old vicious there just to boot as well. But penetrating empowered is going to give you 10% more empowerment. It's going to give you critical hit empowered gain against players. So you're going to get that 10% penetration against players that are empowered. And it's also going to reduce the duration of their empowers by 7% with only a 1-second cooldown. So that means every strike you're going to be dropping their empowerment by 7% every single time. Makes this really good when you get those penetrating empowered. But it has to be crits. But there is some up talk about it kind of being bugged right now where you're getting that like constantly. I don't know if I've really seen that. Maybe there's not really a way for me to really tell, right? I haven't really tested that far, so I'll be straight up with you guys. But I do tend to switch between 2 different spears. This may be a hot take, and some of you guys, my heavy PvPers, let me know in the comments below, but I kind of like an enfeebling skewer spear. I know it's not a big thing people talk about in PvP, and say that, you know, there's other talents that are better, but I actually have found this to be really good, especially the hoplite with the disdained infliction, keenly jagged, and a skewer. Not only pumping out great damage with that disdained affliction, pushing up my dot damage, especially since I have rune glass too as well on this spear, but that skewer, if you hit it, can be so good with shutting down things like hatchet pushes, great sword pushing you. You will see them get hit with that skewer and they will know. And they tend, you know, you mess up their whole flow, and it's really good pairing that, you know, skewer into sweep, preferate. You've got weakens, you've got rends, you've got that enfeebling on there. It is so good for really turning the tide of a fight, and I like it a lot. And I find myself going back and forth. If I was to say which one I really like more, the stop poking me or the hoplite in PvP right now, I'm honestly going to give it to the hoplite spear for my taste of how I like to play, which is goading players out to up close engagements with my fire staff to push in, then swapping over, and then surprise, here's a spear for you, buddy. And it's the way I like to play the build. So spear really works. The rotation, how you want to play it, is I recommend with the Inferno. It's got keenly empowered, vicious, and empowering fireball. So I usually will fireball the target, get their attention. They'll be mad at me, you know, hit them with a pillar on approach. Then when they get within distance, I'm going to iframe that first attack they do, and then I want to come in with my skewer right on top of that, get that bleed started on them. And that's usually why I think I like the hoplite spear, is because I get to just cut their damage in half right off the rip, and that makes it really good. So you see, when you hit an enfeebling skewer, you get that 48% reduction in their damage done to you. So it is so great to just kind of shut them down right off the rip. And it's really good, and I like that pairing with it. So that is usually what I do. I'll come in with a skewer, iframe usually the next attack, sweep, and then sweep coup de grace down into a preferate. And that's kind of how I would rock it and do it. We're going to talk about stats and talents and stuff here in just a second. Let's talk about gear while we're on this screen. So I run this build medium, 22.9. You're going to accomplish this by running a light pair of legs, and you're then going to do a medium head, medium gloves, heavy boots, heavy chest. Now, you could choose to do heavy head, heavy chest, go medium gloves, go heavy gloves, then go light pants, and then medium boots if you want to. You just have to make sure that on your head, gloves, and boots, that you have a medium, heavy setup. Your legs will always be light and your chest will be heavy. I am running the Void Dark Plate chest piece. That is what's giving me such an ungodly amount of physical resist. And I'm pretty much rocking that. On every piece of our gear, we have Enchanted Ward. Enchanted Ward is our main go-to for our resistances. And if you've already noticed here, the main thing I'm crutching on with this build a lot is you see a lot of fire harnessing. So we have fire harnessing here. We have fire harnessing here, also here. We don't have all our pieces with fire harnessing, but that's what we want to get to ideally. Ideally, this would be great to be if it was sweep, harnessing, Enchanted Ward, because we really want to push up the fire damage. Where the Inferno struggles on, and you'll notice when you use, is the actual smolder, right? Since it's scaling off of strength, and this would be, we'll cover this when we go in the stat process, but when it scales off of strength, you lose some of those things in intel, which I'll cover in a second. So main thing is you want to look at having sweep. Bleeding sweep is really good. So when you sweep, you're going to get that 10% extra bleed damage for 8 seconds on the enemy. If you decide to be a Cyclone player, running Leeching Cyclone on the gear is good too as well. Being in those clump fights, you get some good heals with the Cyclone as well. Also, stuff like Fortifying Perforate is really huge. That's what I'm trying to work into this build too as well. I probably should have just put it on the dark plate, honestly, now that thinking about it in hindsight, but that's, working in as you will, what works for you and your build. For the jewelry, I am running the Empty Hearth, and I'm mainly going for the flame protection. I would ideally like to have Alchemist Reprieve or Divine on this neck as well, so we can increase those incoming heals. For the ring, we have fire damage and hardy are the two main talents. The other one can be whatever you want. I know some people like invigorate punishment instead of fire damage or whatever floats your boat, you can do it, right? So that is what you want to do. And then I'm running Endless Thirst. That's why I said I like Alchemist Reprove or Divine, because as you can see, the Thirst is going to give you 33% stronger consumables. Yes, you get a little bit of a longer cooldown, but that big jolt of health when you need it is amazing. So, and also coming with Empowered Toast and Fortifying Toast, you're going to get more damage, and you're going to also gain that 20% Fortify, which is really nice. And then with the Fire Staff also granting you Fortify, it's really good pairing. So that's why I really, really like doing that. In combination. So you think about it and you look at something with Alchemist Reprieve, you're going to get 10%, right? You're also going to get 10% with Divine too as well. Divine is another one that's really good with improving your incoming health. And you think about 10 because you got 5. You also get that from the 25% on con. You also get another 10 there. So you're looking at making yourself about roughly 53% stronger on popping a pot. It's so good and paired with the Endless Thirst to really shoot your health back up, especially with all the disease and other stuff out there, to really help fight against that, to get you health when you need it. So that is kind of how I have it set up. That's the build here. If you are a light enjoyer and you said, I like this build, but I would rather be a light dodger, I would highly recommend rocking the featherweight chest piece. Okay, you want to go with the light boots here. We're going to go with these gloves and this head here. That's going to put you at 12.9. So heavy head, featherweight, heavy gloves, light pants, light boots. Okay, that's going to put you at 12.9. You can see your resistances here, how they kind of would be based on your gymming structure. It'll change, right? So that's kind of how you would want to do it if you wanted to be light, to get that light roll in there into the mix. But once again, I like rocking it the way I have it right now, which is with the Void Dark Plate, giving me that much more of the resistances as well. So let's talk stats as well. When we look down here with our physical resistances, damage 7.5 on slash, 2.5 on strike, 7.5 on thrust. This is where things like conditioning would be good to have too as well, to really help those physical resistances, which I know my PvPers are looking at this video saying, bro, where is the conditioning at, bro? Where is the freedom at? I know. It's still a work in progress. We're still trying to find the right balance. We've had several iterations of this build, and right now we're just trying to see what's possible with it. This is more or less the build I run and how I run it and what I found to be enjoyable. So definitely tips, tricks, more than happy to put them in comments. I love engaging with you guys. So just full disclaimer, this is just my work in progress build of Inferno Spear that I have. And as you can see during this video, I'm showing also some footage of PvP of me using the build and how great it's been. It's really good. So I highly recommend running opals too as well, getting at least 10% resistance and everything, and a flame protection neck. Of course, fire staffs are running rampant. Also warding yourself physically against strike and thrust the most. Although do be wary, strike will hit really hard when you don't have at least some resistance to it. So I always recommend, that's why I think 1 Onyx is good, just to have at least some resistance. You never want to be at 0. They don't have to be max, but just never at 0, right? That's the main thing behind it that you want to do. So let's talk our actual attributes here. Attribute structure, I'm pushing heavy into strength, 50 dex, 150 con. Now, the reason why I'm going so heavy on strength, and you're like, well, Nelson, diminishing returns, all this stuff. Yeah, I get it. But our main goal is to try to also make sure we still have decent damage output of our Inferno and also our Spear at the same time. Since they both can scale off of strength, strength makes more of the sense to push into. Now, I do go to the 50 dex, not really by choice. It's kind of how the gear is set up with the spears themselves to stop poking me and the hoplite. They both are not magnified, so it makes you have to, it gives you that 42 dex, so it just makes sense going with this. So where you do get the benefit being at full health is whenever you're in clumps or you're in sacred, and you do get that 5% base damage increase. We're going full 350 strength, so we get that 10% extra base damage, and then everything after that is just gravy on top. Now, I do sometimes run this build where I'll drop 50 off of this and put it into dex just to get the 5% more damage when not at full stam, which, you know, you're dodging all the time in PvP, so this is pretty much always up. And it does increase my spear output too as well. I'll go from roughly being, 1496, and I think when it goes to 100, we're actually at like 1600. So we do pick up some decent damage by doing this. We just lose it off the Inferno because we're bringing it out. So just find what works for you. If you find yourself using your spear way more than the actual Inferno itself, then go with the structure of having at least 100 decks. But if you find yourself using them equally, I think this stat structure works pretty well. On the 150 node, you're going to take 10% critical hit less damage, 10% more health at 100. Then at the 50, you gain 5% armor. And then as I was saying before, at 25, you're going to get that 10% stronger on all healing consumables. So that pairs really well with the Endless Thirst that we rock, which is our artifact earring. Endless Thirst, just quick PSA here, to know where you get Endless Thirst, you would want to do Savage Divide on mutated M1, 2, or 3 to do them. Honestly, if you're just going for these artifacts, whether it's the Inferno, whether it's the Endless Thirst, do it on M1. Don't sweat. Just get it done. Get your 5 clears guaranteed to get it, right? Just get it out the way, or at least go until you get it, right? And then on the Glacial, now Glacial Tarn, I'd recommend trying to get 2s because you want them to drop already legendary. Already you know, up there where they're already legendary, so you don't have to spend the chromatic seals to take them up higher. So you definitely want to make sure that they drop already at that level, so you don't have to worry about having to bring them up to legendary level and being 2 perkers when they get them. Although when they are 2 perkers, they still have elemental version and enchanted ward on it, so they are still usable, but you want that guaranteed 3rd perk roll. So every time Glacial Tarn comes out, I'm always in there trying to run and get these drops of these pieces to get those free rolls in. All right, so moving on past this, let's talk also the weapon structure of the weapons. This is the current spear build that I am running and working on right now. I do run sweep, perforate, and also skewer. I will change out sweep for cyclone, and sometimes I have been tossing around the idea of replacing skewer with cyclone, running perforate, sweep, and cyclone. I've seen that too as well. So there's other things in this build I haven't tested yet, but I'll give updates to the build if I find any other combination to work. But this has been doing me pretty well right now. A lot of these nodes, you just want to kind of just take this, put them in, and just read over them, and you'll see kind of why they're being chosen. Everything from, you know, critical hit chance, being increased by 50% on a bleeding target. Well, of course, we've got it coming from the skewer. We've got it coming from also we also got it coming from Kingly Jagged. We also have it coming from the bleeding sweep that we have too as well. So multiple ways to put bleed on our target. So that's why this exposed wounds was chosen. So that's kind of how you do your node selections anyways, is play off of what your build and perks on your gear does anyways, and on your talents, and then you build around that in your playstyle. So that's for the spear. Let's go to the Inferno. So my fire staff, this is my fire staff tree. You kind of want to go with this here, how I have laid out. One of the big ones on the right side, definitely make sure you take Let It Burn. Let It Burn, as you can see there, you do get 10% fortify for 2 seconds for smolder effects. So whenever you have smolder effects that deal damage, you get so if you're hitting constantly with the fire staff, you're going to constantly keep getting this on the enemy with that 10% fortify, which is really nice, adding it in to your build when you do it. So make sure that you definitely take that one, and then just read over the other nodes and you'll see why you have those 2 in there as well. So that is definitely how you want to have this set up and structured with everything here. Now, another thing I want to talk about real quick before I let you guys go on this video is consumables. Honing stones, use whatever you want to, weak to up to the powerful. These can get expensive to do, so you could do tier 3s, tier 4s. You know, 1% damage is negligible at best in PvP. I would highly recommend having some oak flesh with you, as well as if you're having a lot of elemental damage going on, maybe even some gemstone dust too as well. Good thing to do is also make sure you're running cutlass keys, and you're getting your doubloons down here, running through and doing your CKs whenever you can, so that you can go to the Well of Fortune and do those cooldowns where you will get 5 oak flesh, 5 gemstone dust, 5 honing stones on a weekly reset. That's a good way to kind of fuel you and kind of help reduce that particular deal where you're having to deal with supplying yourself with these necessary consumables. So I'd highly recommend you doing that too as well. Now, when you're grinding OPR and you're doing this and using the build, I would recommend you play this build from a situation of always trying to stick with what the pack is doing. It's still a great 1v1 engagement build as well. I've won many 1v1s, 1v2s as well with the build. It's great to be used. It's good to be fought in clumps on point. It's just all around good. Taking Baron, all that stuff. It's really great with the actual survivability of it. And right now we are playing the build actively. You can catch me on twitch.tv/BabyFNelson, where I am currently on a fresh character grinding the PvP track, pushing towards the land of, you know, the hopium on these tracks here, as far as when we will be able to start to see artifacts. The first chance I have is at 29. There's a video that I do have down there about artifacts where you can actually see where all the artifacts come from, as well as where they drop on the tracks as well. So that is pretty much it in a nutshell, guys. That's the whole video. That's the whole shebang. If you got any questions, make sure you ask them in the channel below. Hit the comments up. Guys, we're almost at 1,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys so much for your support, and consider hitting that subscription button, consider hitting the like, and I hope to see you on the next one. Your boy Nelson is out of here.